means order, and the order of things in a Hebrew book begins from right to left. So go ahead and open your book, what might feel like backwards, but that's where you're going to find page 1. Feel free to sit up a little bit straighter. Inhale and exhale, the beginning of the end of the week. Take as many of those deep breaths as you need. Feel free to even close your eyes. Let your shoulders relax. And we find ourselves at the last stanza on the bottom of 1.
Welcome, folks.
Welcome.
Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbos.
I'm Rabbi Stephen. This is Rabbi Lizzie.
Hello.
Rabbi Dean at the door. We have our amazing davening team. We have all of you in the room. I especially want to welcome our friends from Lawndale Christian Community Church who are visiting us. Welcome.
Welcome.
I also want to welcome our friends who came very far from Second Unitarian. Also welcome. Welcome to your space. Thank you for letting us borrow it. It's Shabbat. It is...
Thank God.
Literally, actually, thank God. Shabbat was given, we're told, as a sign, an ot hi le'olam, an eternal sign of the relationship between God, not only between God and the Jewish people, but between God and all people, between God and all of creation. We're told that on Shabbat, not only are we as a Jewish community supposed to rest, but we're supposed to rest regardless of class, of status. We're supposed to rest regardless of whether we're Jewish or not. We're supposed to rest regardless of whether we're human or not. Even our animals are supposed to rest on this day. What a radical act of faith to actually believe that we can take our hands off the steering wheel for 24 hours and that things will be okay without us meddling, smothering, white-knuckling, as we might do for the other 6 days of the week. And I understand that it can be really difficult to let go and to believe that actually we can take our hands off the wheel and that we'll be okay. The world's gonna keep on going, and that whatever stresses or concerns that you might have carried into this room, they're still gonna be there tomorrow. So don't worry. But for now, your job is to take those and put them in a box, and take that box and put them somewhere safely in the back of your mind where they'll sit for the next 24 hours. And so you might ask, for this radical institution of Shabbat, for this countercultural taking our hands off the wheel and stepping back, of not just doing but simply being, what is required of us? What is required of us to be able to participate in this day? And the answer is nothing. That actually everything you need to enter Shabbat is already in you. When it says that Shabbat is for all people, all creatures, it doesn't say those who are really good at it. It doesn't say just those who are capable of relaxing really fast. It doesn't say those who know Hebrew or know how to sing the songs. It doesn't say any of that. It says all people. That each of us has what it takes to just simply be, and that is good enough. That's good enough. You're good enough. However, our tradition gives us some tools to help us a little bit on this journey. So we have our Siddur, we have our prayer book, which some of you might be very familiar with, and some of you might be encountering for the first time. As Rabbi Lizzie mentioned, it goes from right to left. You might take a little getting used to. There's Hebrew, there's transliteration in it, there's translation, there's commentary. And we're about to go into a part of the service called Kabbalat Shabbat, receiving Shabbat, which is kind of a warm-up ramp for us, because the rabbis understood that maybe it's not so easy to walk in from the outside and immediately let go and believe that we actually have what it takes to simply be and be with ourselves. And so we'll be weaving in and out of song and silence, of word, both in English and Hebrew, all different ways of helping us engage that muscle of simply being, of recognizing that we are good enough just the way we are. All of us. We have what it takes. We are going to turn to page 2, I believe. 2. Page 2.
You can just join me with that one word, Lechu. And if that's too low for you, you could go like this, Lechu. Or if maybe you're a bass, you could do it an octave down, but I can't do that one. Yeah, just keep doing that. Lechu neranana ladonai, nariya letzor yisheno. Neranana ladonai, nariya letzor. You can join me on the words too if you want, or just keep doing that drone. Neranana ladonai, lechu nariya letzor yisheno. bottom of page 2. You'll notice that we kind of go in and out of each psalm. There are 7 psalms, one for each day of the week in Kabbalat Shabbat. There's an opening, there's a closing, a peticha and a chatima. And, we may sing one or the other or both or neither. And if it's your custom to do everything, go ahead and do everything and do it at your own pace. And don't feel limited by what we're doing out loud. Just find yourself at the bottom of 2. Arba'im shana kud bedor va'omar am to'el v'avhem v'hem lo yadu derachai asher nishbati be'api im yavon el menuchati. We're on 3. Shirul Adonai, Shirul Adonai, Shir Chadash, Shirul Adonai, Kol Haaretz, Shirul Adonai, Baruchu Shemo, Basaru Gadol Adonai u'molam me'od, norahu al kol Elohim, Yerelai Laya, od v'chada lefanai, oz v'tiferet l'mikdasho. Justice and righteousness is what your throne looks like. We're on the top of 5. Ohave Adonai, Shomer nafshot chasidav, meyad reshayim yatzilei, urzaru atzadik, u'yishrei lesimcha, simchu tzadikim Adonai, ve'hodu lezecher kodsho, mizmor shirul Adonai shir chadash, ki niflaot asa ushia lo yamino, uzroa kodsho.
Voices, song, trumpets, and shofar.
We're on the top of 6. Livnei Adonai kiva, lishpot haaretz, yishpot teva b'tzedek, ve'amim ben mesharim. Adonai malach yogadu amim, yoshev krovim tanut haaretz. We'll pick up in the middle of 6 in a moment. Moshe v'Aharon v'Chohanan u'Shmuel v'Korei Shemo korim el Adonai v'hu yaneh. בעמוד ענן ידבר עליהם, שומרו עדותיו ורוב נתן עמו. אדוני אלוהינו אתה ניתן, אל נושא היית להם ונוקם על עלילותם. רוממו אדוני אלוהינו והשתחוו להר קודשו, כי קדוש אדוני אלוהינו. I invite you to stand. מזמור לדוד, הבו לאדוני בני אלי, הבו לאדוני כבוד You guys can just keep dancing all the time. All the songs, all the prayers, all the time. Okay, or leave. They're not all going to be like that, so I appreciate getting out ahead of it. We could take a seat. Good Shabbos.
Shabbat shalom.
I feel like we're warmed up now.
You know.
It's really great to be here with all of you. We opened the Torah up this week to the section of Torah, the Parsha, in which we read about the construction of the Mishkan. Thank you very much. Which is like kind of fun every year, because people often ask, like, what is the Hebrew word for which our community is named? And the answer is, it's from this week's Torah portion. It is the traveling prayer tent, or spirituality nest, or I don't know exactly. There's like no real analog for it. I don't know, maybe like Cirque du Soleil, but like very holy. And the reason and why I say Cirque du Soleil is because like it's a traveling show, and you know, you have to imagine that the people putting that show together, that, you know, the road crew understands a very precise kind of blueprint for how you need to take the poles and the curtains and the whatever, the whole thing that makes it so that the people flying around don't all crash down and die, but that it ends up instead being like an incredibly powerful in-person experience for the presence of something really amazing, right? And so the Torah describes in great detail not the circus itself, but the travel building plans, the beams and the poles and the fabrics for the curtains and how they should be attached in very great, minute detail, very specific. And there's specific values that are also built into the building, you know, like the ark should be laid with gold on the inside, but also gold on the outside. But the inside should reflect the outside, which becomes a value, that we should have integrity, that our outsides should reflect our insides should also reflect our outsides, that we should be clear. And then on either side of the ark, and part of Mishkan Chicago's travel blueprint unfortunately doesn't include that we bring our ark, our ark with us everywhere we go. We have an ark in which we keep a Torah. It lives at another site. So you'll just have to imagine it. But the ark described in the Torah here includes two golden cheruvim. And it's sometimes translated as cherubs. And sometimes people think, oh, angels, you know, like cute little babies or something. But actually, and I'm very grateful, Rabbi Amichai Levi pointed this out to me. The last time we saw cheruvim was holding fiery swords guarding the Garden of Eden. Those were not little angel babies. Those were some scary something or other, you know, so that you would do right. And so these angels, or not angels, these cheruvim flank the ark and they look at one another. And the text is actually quite clear. God says that God's presence will be there, emanating from between the faces of those cheruvim, facing one another, with God's word emanating out from between them. And you might interpret that now, if you look at an ark, as, oh, of course, Torah. Torah's in between the two things. But actually, so this great teacher, Rabbi Amichai, had us do a little exercise. I was at a conference over the last week, and a bunch of rabbis and other folks from the Jewish Emergent Network, and he said, and I'm not going to make you do this right now, I'm going to make you do a version of it. He invited us to turn to the person next to us and stare into their eyes for 30 seconds. Okay, so just, I'll be a stand-in for your neighbor, so it doesn't have to be too awkward. All right, hang on. You're gonna, just, no. He invited us to do this. And then he asked us to describe the space in between our faces. And so somebody said vulnerable. Somebody said intimate. Somebody said hard to describe, ineffable. Funny, awkward. He said, yeah, she goes by a lot of names. Right? God goes by a lot of names. What exists in the space between two faces. So we're entering right now the month of Adar. We entered it during the course of the week, but the whole idea in Adar is that we're supposed to be joyful. And we bring each other joy. We do joyful things. We try and amp up the joy that we have inside of us. And I'm conscious that right now it doesn't always feel joyful out there in the world. You might come in here not feeling particularly joyful. It might feel annoying to hear the tradition say to you, okay, it's Adar, everybody. Be joyful. Come on. But the holiday of Purim is in a week and a half. And the holiday of Purim says to you, put on a funny costume. You don't have to drink, but you can if you want to. We invite you to get silly. We're gonna read a really absurd story together, but that is awkwardly, eerily resonant to things going on in our world today, and has been as long as it's existed. And so we need to kind of amp ourselves up to get to the Purim story in a week and a half. So we actually spend the next week and a half trying to bring ourselves to joy and zaniness and silliness. So what I do want to ask you to do, if not to stare into the eyes of the person next to you, is to introduce yourself to them and give them your full and undivided attention. And find out from them what is bringing them joy right now. And if it's nothing, then challenge each other in the next 2 minutes to find some joy. Because we will not be defined by the dark, cold season that we are often in at this time of year, or whatever's happening in the world. We will transcend. We will find our joy, and we will help each other find our joy. So I invite you to turn, especially, I would love if we could get some cross-pollination of our communities happening to do this. So meet somebody who you probably haven't seen at Mishkan before, maybe who came from Lawndale or something. I invite you to stand and walk across the room and find somebody, introduce yourself, and find out what's bringing you and what's bringing them joy right now. And we're gonna come back together for Lecha Dodi. And it might not be 2 minutes, it might be 4 or 5. Stand up, stand up. Well, I completely, by accident, mixed two different things. The hard thing was as an intro. Anyway. Yeah, and then I was that wasn't what I meant to say at all. I meant to talk about sort of and I haven't drunk at all, but I feel like I should. of what I'm getting at. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. How's it going? Yeah? Is the back is open? Okay. Slowing it down just a little bit, or
No, it's good, yeah.
all right. That sounded joyful. I hope you continue and deepen that conversation over a little nosh after the service. Feel free to find your way back to your seat. We're on page 8. Pick up with the verse. Shamor v'zachor v'dibor echad, Hishmi'anu el am yuchad, Adonai echad u'shmo echad, V'shem u'tiferet elet kila, Lecha Dodi lirat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, Likra Shabbat lechu v'nelcha, ki hi mekor habracha, berosh mekedem nesucha, sof ma'aseh v'machshava tchila, lecha dodi lirat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, turn the page to 9 at the top. Lo tivoshi lo tikami, ma tishochachi u'ma tehmi, yubach yechesu anyami, v'nivneta hir al tzila, lecha dodi lirat kala, Penei Shabbat nekabela, in, Shabbos Queen. Come in, little voices. Come in, everybody. Come in, peace. Boi v'shalom. This week, at least one member of our community lost his father just right before Shabbat. And so there are these words at the bottom of page 9. Kabbalat Shabbat is so joyful, and it often feels very out of step with people who are in the throes of grief. And so this would be the moment with the doors open, people would come in. So Bruce is in Palm Springs, but would come in, and we would say to them, and we do say to you, whoever you are who may be carrying grief, these words at the bottom of 9, Hamakom yenachem etchem betoch sha'ar avlei Tzion v'Yerushalayim. May the Holy One comfort you among all of the mourners of our people and all people. I'm sending a lot of love to Bruce and Lisa Cohen tonight. We can take a seat. So, good Shabbos. Hi, I'm Rabbi Lizzie. It's very nice to have you here with us. Whether you're here on an official visit or on an unofficial visit because you just thought tonight might be a nice night to come to Shabbat and you happen to come on this night. This is the moment when we often ask, like, if you're here for the first time, we invite you to stand up and share with us who you are and what brought you here. And it usually takes like 5 minutes because maybe, I don't know, somewhere between 5 and 15 people will stand up. I feel like tonight it would be 50 people. And I have to say I am struggling because I want to know who everybody is and where you came from and what brought you tonight, because the answer is not just a bus. What I'll say is I invite you to stand if you want to. You don't have to. But if you are here for the first time tonight, I do want to invite you to share with us who are you so that we can love you up, whether you came tonight with Lawndale, with Second Unitarian, whether you're here for the first time celebrating Shabbat as one of our 6th grade families who was here earlier, or just came to Shabbat tonight for the first time in a while. I invite you to stand so that we can know who you are, so that we can love you up. Go ahead. Yeah, all right, let's start in the back.
I came with my posse over here.
Welcome, Delilah and Posse. Hey. Thank you, Delilah and Posse. Is it the whole Posse's first time here as well? No, okay. Well, welcome back. Anybody else from over here? Yes.
Hi, my name is Kevin. I'm from Lawndale Christian Community Church, and we love the Lord, and I think I speak for all of us here. That's why we're here to celebrate Kevin.
Well, we have something in common. I'm so glad. Did you say Kevin? Welcome, and welcome to everybody. Anybody else want to introduce? Yeah.
Hi, I'm Shay, and I have my friends and professor from the University of Chicago Business School.
All right. Great. Well, welcome. Welcome to all of you. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Neil. The anniversary of my mom's casting is coming, and I just wanted to come here to remember her.
Thank you, Neil. May her memory be a blessing. We'll do Kaddish at the end of services.
I'm Benjamin, and I go to Second Unitarian.
All right. Thank you, Benjamin, on behalf of Second Unitarian and the whole posse. Love it. Did I miss anybody? All right. Well, welcome to all of you. You're at Mishkan. We do this thing here every other Friday night. In the summer, we will start doing it outdoors as often as we can. Every other Shabbat morning, we meet for a different kind of service. We read Torah. It's a little bit longer. There's more space for kids to dance. That's where the Ark that I mentioned before lives, up on Lawrence in a different part of the north side. But you're invited to come back to celebrate Shabbat with us any old time. And as I mentioned, the holiday of Purim is coming up. And you are all invited to that too. It is a zany holiday. It is a crazy holiday. It's like the Jewish Mardi Gras. It's actually Cirque du Soleil is not a bad reference in the context of Purim. It's like, I mean, I don't know how racy Cirque du Soleil has gotten, but I remember when my parents took me to see it when I was 8, I was way too young. Like, that was not appropriate. We're a little racy too. Purim is very racy. So this is to say, like, I'm giving you a week and a half notice. Get a costume. It can be a funny costume. It can be a sexy costume. We have a kids thing. Wear your funny costume to that. We have an adults thing. Wear whatever you want to that. We have a great spiel. My husband Henry sitting over here took Judah home, but like Dana's sitting over here. There is a spiel team that has been working very hard to make you all laugh. And it's... I feel like we need it right now, y'all, in a big way. So if you haven't registered, I invite you to do that. We have a lot of other things going on in the community. You can, if you are here for the first time or you're not on our email list, there's a little QR code out there. You can get yourself on our email list, and then you will find out what's going on. There are many different support groups that are starting or continuing through Maggie's Place. Do you want to mention anything? Go for it.
So on Monday, for those who are interested, I'll be leading a class on how to engage in the holiday of Purim if you are in recovery, sober, or a non-drinker, or just want to drink less and want to get into the spirit of the holiday.
Yeah, challenge yourself to v'nahafochu, turn things on their head without alcohol.
Exactly.
Yeah. And then...
Tuesday. And Tuesday is Election Day.
A big Jewish holiday.
Woo, a big Jewish holiday. I cannot tell you who to vote for, but I can tell you that voting is a Jewish value. It's not a Jewish value. It's actually a mitzvah. It's like a commandment. So go vote.
It's in the Torah.
It is
somewhere.
It's in the Talmud. It is in the Talmud, right? So go vote. If you do not have a voting plan, we have folks who will help you make a voting plan. But Chicago, Illinois has same-day voter registration. So you can show up at your polling place and you can register to vote. Not only is this the mayoral election, but we are also looking at different alder positions. We are also potentially electing some Mishkanites to a district council to help oversee the Chicago police system and make sure they're accountable to us as a people and a community. It is very exciting. It is a big election. So go do it. Just do it. I have no other rabbinic advice other than go do it.
Do it. JCUA is a partner of Mishkan, and they have a voter guide, which you can find probably at the JCUA website.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, shall we press on?
Yes.
Invite you to stand. We're on page 13. Now let's just hit it. Let's just go.
Baruch
Adonai Elohim melech haolam asher bibaro ma'ari v'aravim b'chokma patech she'arim u'v'tfuna mishana itim v'chaliv et hazmanim mesader et hakol chavim v'shutei ha'keres
U'mavir yom u'mevi layla u'mavdil ben yom u'ben layla Adonai tzvaot shemo El chai v'kayam Tamid yimoch aleinu le'olam va'ed Baruch atah Adonai Hamari
Page 14.
Ki hem chayenu ve'orech yameinu uvahem nege yomam v'layla ve'avatecha tasir mimenu le'olamim Baruch atah Adonai Ohem amo Yisrael.
On 15.
Shema. הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבניך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך ובשרתם להיות על ידך והיו תותפות בעיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובישעריך.
Read your way through 16 and 17. You'll see the Sidur, the words of the prayer service, are comprised of paragraphs and lines from Torah, from different parts of the Tanakh, the Torah, prophets, and writings, and then also full of poetry that the later rabbis created. But the section we're in now has, well, a lot of both. We find ourselves toward the bottom of 18.
Adonai Elohechem Emet. ומלכותו ברצון קיבלו עליהם משה ומרים ובני ישראל לחנו שירה בשמחה רבה ואמרו כולם מי כמוך באלים אדוני מי כמוך נדר בקודש נורא תהילות עושה מלכותך ראו בניך בוקי הים לפני משה זה ליענו ואמרו אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד ונאמר כי פדה אדוני את יעקב וגאלו מיד חזק ממנו ברוך אתה אדוני גל ישראל. Before we go into Hashkiveinu, if you walked in tonight in the first 20, 25 minutes of services or earlier, you were greeted by at least 4 different people. You were greeted outdoors and at the door and as you walked into the lobby and as you walked into this space, and that was on purpose. Our security consultants tell us that actually that's a good security practice. And our Jewish tradition tells us that that's a good community practice. That even though there are people in the world who have decided that the best use of their day tomorrow is not to take a nap, or take a walk, or watch a movie, or hang out with their friends, but to create a day of hate. And in response to that day of hate, we feel some fear that there are people in the world who think that that's the best way they could use their Saturday. And we also feel a conviction that being in community is worth it. That showing up for each other, that schlepping across the city, whether that's 2 miles or 20, showing up online, showing up when you could be doing so many other things is worth it. And so we make it our practice to welcome you again and again and again as you walk through the door, because we know that whatever it took to get to this seat right here, it took a journey. Every single one of us, it took a journey to get here. And we had to face some kind of fear, whether that was a fear for our own safety, a fear of welcoming, a fear of belonging, a fear of finding peace. We all face fear in getting to this moment, and then when we are together, we can be protected in that. We pray in Hashkiveinu, Ufros aleinu sukat shlomecha. Holy One, spread out over us the covering, the delicate shelter of your peace. Because we know that it's better to be afraid together than alone. It's better to be afraid together than safe alone. The risk is worth it. The community is worth it. And so as we go into this prayer, as we go into this day when there are people out there who think that tomorrow should be a day of hate, we say Shabbat is a day of love. Shabbat is a day of togetherness, of community, of taking the risk to sit under one roof together and say, when we do that, spread over us a shelter of peace. Keep us safe, protect us, and heal us from all that ails us physically and spiritually and emotionally. Protect us through this 25 hours and onwards. So thank you for coming here to be protected, to protect, to love, for taking the risk and doing the hard thing. And may you find that this togetherness gives you some peace. We are on page 19.
Guard our comings and our goings. לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכה, שלומך, לחיים ולשלום, מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכה, שלומך, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו. Guard our goings and our comings. Wherever in the world we are. For life and peace. Spread over us. Shelter of your peace. Shalom, מעתה ועד עולם, ופרוס עלינו סוכה, שלומך, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו, ושמור צאתנו ובואנו, ושמור צאתנו. Shelter of peace and safety, someone who is lonely, someone who needs a prayer, who needs healing. Say their name out loud right now or type it in the chat if you're watching online. Amen, amen. Amen. My dad, who's recovering from COVID. Your peace, your love. Baruch atah Adonai, haporei sukat shalom, aleinu ve'al kol amo Yisrael, ve'al Yerushalayim. We're on the top of 20. Ve'shamro b'nei Yisrael et Hashabbat la'asot et Hashabbat לדורותם ברית עולם ביני ובין בני ישראל אותי לעולם אותי
השמיים ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. All right, one more time. ושמרו בני ישראל לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. There's a section now called the Amidah, which just means standing. It begins on page 21. At night, it's just done quietly, personally. You can use the pages in the Siddur from 21 to 27 and go through them. You'll see people taking 3 steps backwards and 3 steps forwards in their place, bowing in all the directions to all of the ancestors mentioned in the first paragraph. You can also close the book and pray your own prayers, speak your own words. We'll come back in just a few moments. We'll wait a few moments until people kind of gather back. I think that'd be awesome. So, I know some of you came to Shul tonight because you weren't excited. I mean, of course, it's always exciting to come to Shabbat and do this, but you were actually coming to hear Pastor Jay preach. There are some people here who are here for you. I mean, let's just be real. And I'm so glad, and they're right. So I'm
I wanted to share just a word of introduction before Pastor Jay takes the microphone. I described the two they're not angels. I see how corrupted my mind has been by, I don't even know, what, like 14th century Renaissance art. That's what it is. Okay, so the ark has these two cheruvim. Angel, not babies, but fiery sword protectors of the tradition and of God's presence. And the idea is that God's presence manifests from between the two faces, and that part of the Torah here, obviously, is that God is not confined to a space. Like, don't insult her. Like, the building the Mishkan is not about God being in a place. It's about God being among people when they take on a project together, right? When they bring their gifts and their attention and their appreciation of one another's talents and visions and priorities and lives, and really see each other and build something together. It's hard to build something together if you don't really know one another. And so I got to know Pastor Jay in a program called the Chicago Commons Project, which maybe some of you have heard about. It's a project of the University of Chicago Divinity School and the Eli Lilly Foundation, and maybe anybody else? No. At least those two important organizations. And the whole idea was to bring clergy together across Chicago to have deep and important conversations, but more importantly, to build relationships that might lead to something. And they weren't going to tell you what, but they were going to tell you, we hope that you build something, that you come to know one another well enough to want to build together. And me and Pastor Jay came to know one another through the 3 years of that program. It was only supposed to be 2, but then COVID happened, so they threw another year at us, which we were grateful for, and I think is part of why we're here, because it's not just about two faces getting to know one another, but two faces getting to know one another can be the beginning of two communities getting to know one another. And this is also how we begin to build something bigger than, just personally, but this is how the concentric circles of reverberating relationship work. So for those of you who were not at Lawndale Christian Community Church with us over the summer, 50 of us went down there for a Sunday morning service, or at the Martin Luther King Day event that they had at the Legal Center. You should know Pastor Jay is the co-pastor right now of, it is not just a church, it is an empire. Maybe wrong word, but it takes up multiple city blocks. It is a church, it is a health center and fitness center, it is a legal center, it is a development corporation, and there is a recovery, there is a home for recovery, and then a work transition program for people in recovery. It is magnificent. And I thought to myself, coming off that, my God, what we do here is so humble in comparison. Like, it's good, but really, like, you're doing God's work, and so that describes the church and the space. And we thought, like, well, what should we talk about? When we went down, I spoke about, why are we a bunch of Jews coming to Lawndale? And the answer was like, well, the Jewish people has deep roots in Lawndale, and there's a long story there, and some of it's beautiful, and some of it's really painful. And so we were coming to begin to explore that together and talk about it. And so today I asked Pastor Jay, so why are you, the Lawndale Christian Community Church, trucking up here to Mishkan to visit us? And that's where we started. But, where you start, you never know where you end. So come on up here, because we're excited to learn some Torah from you. You want to take this one? Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Thank you. So, let me begin by saying it is an honor to be with each and every one of you this evening. One thing she did not mention was also during COVID, I had the grand opportunity to share at a Shabbat service on Zoom some of the my understanding, and I think hopefully a helpful understanding of some of the book of Jeremiah and the ways that I see that in connection with some of the social ills we see in our city and in our world, and the ways that the Torah helps us to see that when we actually don't make roots in places where maybe we're a little afraid to, that we can find ourselves seeking comfortability at all costs. And comfortability probably has become the greatest idol that we all have to figure out what we're going to do with. And so I thought when Rabbi Lizzie asked me the question, why are we here? Let's just be honest. There have been a little bit of tension with some of the things that have been going on culturally in our country, and especially with what's going on with certain people making really ridiculous, in my mind, sentiments and remarks that call themselves speaking on behalf of a whole people. Oh yeah, Kanye said some crazy stuff. Y'all thought I was gonna be politically correct. Welcome, meet Pastor J. So, one of the questions that I often get when I'm talking to my Jewish brothers, sisters, Muslim brothers, sisters, anybody is, they have questions about Christianity and our understandings of our connection to other faiths. You know, like Rabbi Lizzie said, is the New Testament anti-Jewish? And I said, not the New Testament I read. As a matter of fact, I thought maybe we spend a little time talking about how we as Christians, and as Rabbi Lizzie says, the ones who follow our favorite Jew, Jesus. That was hers. I just love it. But maybe we could make a strand that kind of connects what we see in the New Testament as not an eradication or a removal or even any kind of correction of the Hebrew faith, but an expansion. When we think of the New Testament as Jesus followers, we say to ourselves, the same ancestors you were just bowing different directions in honor of are the same ones that we go thank God for. For without Abraham, without Isaac, without Jacob, without all of the 42 generations that lead up to the beginning of our little New Testament, without those generations, we don't even have a story to begin. We're not even included in the story. So what we see our faith as is built on the foundation of what we find in the Torah. And our favorite Jew, Jesus, says, hey, we want to welcome you guys to the party. You may not know when to bow. You may not understand all the Hebrew words. Thank you for the English on the right-hand side. You may not understand exactly what's going on, when to speed up, when to slow down. But one thing we know is when you sing about Adonai, you heard that? I didn't even have to say nothing.
Michigan people take notes on how the Lawndale people listen. Okay?
When you sing about Adonai, we know that we are singing about the same God. And for us, that's all we need to join the party. That's all we need to be able to come in. We don't have to know all the words. Every time you said Adonai, I was like, hallelujah. I looked up and I saw words, and certain words were like redeem and free and liberate. I was like, yes, all of that. What we recognize, even the way I like to look at it, is beginning with that little piece of Torah in Jeremiah that I love, and Jeremiah in our Bible is Jeremiah chapter 29. And in there's a backstory to it, and I talked a little bit about it when I was here last time, is that, this is when Israel is getting kicked out of Jerusalem because they fell in love with idols, right? That Babylon ended up being the place that they were taken in captivity, sent in exile to, because they fell in love with idols, and God was like, oh, you like idols? So you really idols. I tell you what, I'll send you to Babylon, translated land of idols, and you can have an idol palooza. Every idol you can think of is there waiting on you. And God sends them into exile. It literally says at the beginning of this, to the exiles whom I have sent. That's a hard word. That when we're disobedient, when we fall in love with idols, and y'all remember the idol I talked about before I got started? Comfortability, nice houses, safe blocks, best schools. The idol of comfortability is the one we have to deal with. And when God sees that, what God tends to do is send you to a place that makes you uncomfortable. And we don't have to talk about it geographically. We can talk about how it feels to be uncomfortable on the day before somebody's holiday of hate. God puts us in uncomfortable positions to remind us that even in those uncomfortable positions, God is with us. Oh, I'm going somewhere. I'm going to go somewhere. Oh, you'll get used to that in a second and you'll join in. All right, so the passage goes on after he says, whom I send to exile. He tells them in Babylon, in the place that I want to be, in exile. Anybody know what he says to them first? Build houses and live in them. In your uncomfortability, get comfortable. In the fear of what tomorrow might bring, become comfortable. Build a house and live in it, sit in it. What? In uncomfortability, when bullets fly by, when you see trash on the ground, live in it. Make a house there. And then after that, he says, plant gardens and eat what they produce. In other words, don't just be consumers there, but produce some things there. Fall in love with it. Make it a place. The next thing he says is marry. Have sons and daughters. Increase there, do not decrease. What kind of nonsense is Jeremiah writing? We're in Babylon. We want to be back in Jerusalem. This is not where we want to be. And he says, well, here's the verse that the good Jesus followers like to say. Seek the peace and welfare of the city where I have sent you into exile. Pray to the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you will find your welfare. In other words, root yourself there, stay there, get stuck there. What does this mean? How does this connect us together? This is the part I want you to recognize. When he says seek the peace and welfare, when he says stay there, there is a connection of what we believe our faith is saying that is rooted in what we believe happened from the very beginning with Hebrew faith. Y'all know that guy named Abram? Who was sent out, didn't he know where he was going? There are some promises made to Abram that we need in order for our faith to make sense. So I want to read something. Then I'm going to get out the way so I can get questions. You know what I'm saying? I'm a preacher. Don't tell me no. I'll be up here all day. Abram received a divine call at Haran. This is actually in our New Testament. Hebrews chapter 11, verse 8. Go from your land, your family, and your father's home to the land I will show you. I want to say that one more time. Abram received his divine call at Haran. Go from your land, your family, and your father's home to the land I will show you. Leave everything comfortable and go, and I'm not even tell you where you're going. That's literally what he said to him. Drop everything and just walk. You'll know you're there when you get there. What? God gives very few details about this journey, Very few details along the way. But what it shows is Abraham at this time, life of faith. In Hebrews 11:8 it says this, by faith, Abraham, when called to go to a place he would later receive as his inheritance, obeyed and went, even though he did not know where he was going. That's in the book that people are asking, is this thing anti? No. We need that story because what we believe is this place that was given, this place he was given as an inheritance actually becomes the key to everything we do. So I'm gonna ask some people to stand. If you are a member of Lawndale and you went with us on the trip to the Holy Land in November, please stand. I want y'all to see how many people thought it was an important trip, all right? Quite a few of us here. And as we were on that trip, there were things that made sense to us that never made sense before. Places, people, landmarks, even something as simple as that place was not flat, was it? When we read stuff in our little New Testament, like he went down to the Mount of Olives. Oh! You can have a seat. This place becomes so central to us that what we started to realize is that the reason why this little area, this little land between this strip, the Fertile Crescent, this little space is so important is because God placed his people right in the center of the world. Babylon, Egypt, Assyria, all the powers. And who does God put right in the center? Israel. Because God wants everybody to have to pass by his people on their way, as they think, to take over some other people. That's really the story. Egyptians, you want to go invade the Babylonians? You got to go through Israel. Assyrians, you want to fight with the Babylonians? Go through. See how this goes? And why? Because there is something special about these people that God has placed in this little land. And what we recognize is that God is saying, I wanted to flip the entire world upside down. Because when anyone came in contact with God's people, something should have changed. That's what we believe about the Old Testament. We believe that when we come in contact with God's people, something should change. So then our little New Testament, and this, our favorite Jew, Jesus, does the same thing. He pulls the disciples together in one of our key passages. And they're on this mountain. We believe they're on Mount Arbel, which overlooks the Sea of Galilee. And we know the Sea of Galilee now because we sailed on the Sea of Galilee and did all types of Jewish dances. Yeah. It was great. And as we sailed, we noticed around us that this land, when you think about it in biblical times, especially Second Temple period, when Jesus would have been walking around, this was a pretty diverse space. You have the kind of the capital of the Roman Empire up there, Gaulonitis, where all the emperor, kind of like folks from Rome were staying. Then they come down to Jerusalem, cause havoc, and go back to the goodies. Then on one side, you had Galilee, scruffy little town full of fishermen just trying to make it. And then you had this other area above it that was very diverse, full of Jews and Gentiles together, just trying to live all surrounding the Sea of Galilee. Jesus takes his disciples up on this mountain, overseeing the Sea of Galilee, and he gives this commandment, and then I'm going to be done for real. This is the commandment he gives us in Matthew 28, 19 and 20. Anybody who ever followed Jesus for a while ought to know where I'm going. He says, go, therefore, and make disciples of all nations. Now, this is important. I'm about to connect it together as to why Christianity and Judaism need to be hand in hand. They're standing on Mount Arbel looking over the Sea of Galilee, and all the nations of the world are there. You got the Empire of Rome. You've got all these Gentiles. You got Jews around it. You got everybody. And Jesus says, make disciples of all nations. Now, I just taught this last Sunday to Lawndale. Most people think the command in this verse is go. Go, therefore. But the actual better translation of the word is as you go. Wherever you're going already, when you go to the store, when you go to school, when you go to work, when you go fishing, you go play golf. Wherever you go, the command is make disciples of all nations. What Jesus is helping them to realize, and what the disciples, those, can I say that those Jewish guys that were following our favorite Jew, like this is an all Jewish conversation. We're not even there yet. He says to them, make disciples of all nations as you go and do what you do every day. There was a time when he was explaining to Abram what he wanted from him, that he had to send them to a specific place so everybody could come through the land. Don't forget that. I'm going to put you in the center, and the Babylonians, Egyptians, they got to come through you. But now Jesus says, you don't have to go anywhere. They're all here. But the change is nil. There's nothing different about what God is commanding you to do. I want people to come in contact with the people of God. I used to put you in a place and they came to you. Now, they're all here. You go to them. Essentially, Judaism, Christianity, two sides of the same coin. God's chosen people with our customs and laws and ways, and then people are supposed to come through us. We're God's chosen people. Jesus says, let's open it up. Let's add some people who thought they could never be a part of that chosen people. But the difference is, now that I've opened it up, you go to them. What we believe is that without a foundation that explains to us that this has been God's plan all along, we don't believe God's going to change the world. We believe God's going to use us to change the world. Thus, we need to be together. We need to be worshiping. We need to be encouraging. We need to be rebuking. We need to do whatever we need to do in order for us to be together so that when the people of God get together, something changes. That's what we believe. And so we're trying to get as close to y'all as we can. Because we don't believe that God is telling us to be anti anything. Jesus has opened it up. He says, welcome. Now, get together, sing your songs, have your children meet one another, get in deeper relationship, build houses, live in them, plant gardens, eat what they produce, marry, have sons and daughters, don't decrease, do all of these things, and then seek the peace and welfare wherever I've put you. Praise the Lord on its behalf, for in its welfare you'll find your welfare. We need each other. This is not a good thing. This is desperation. So let's not get weary. Let's keep trying. People will, you want to know what's going on right now? People are trying their best to keep this stuff from happening. Because when this happens, this is dangerous. I'm on my Dr. King shirt today because anybody know why he really got killed? The marches, they were cool with. That's fine, march on. You want to get a few laws shifted? That's cool, that's all. But when he started the Poor People's Campaign and started bringing everybody together, no matter race, creed, religion, because everybody was poor, they was like, whoa. Now, it's one thing to march. It's another thing to unify people and help them to realize that there's power in unity. So you want to know what's dangerous about this? Is that this is where the power is. This is unity. God's plan all along, get God's people together. And when you get God's people together, there should be an expectation that something's going to change. So I'm going to ask you a question before I sit down. We know that Adonai, God always brings change, no matter what. The question becomes this: can you still be faithful even if the only thing changing is you? Your views, your perspectives, your thoughts. Hanging with people that have a different lived experience might change you. So let us get together. Let us unify. And let us expect change. Amen.
I want to invite everybody to stand. Don't sit down. He's not kidding. I did, in our last conversation, just straight up say to him, is the New Testament anti-Semitic?
No.
And because I'd heard somebody just the day before who is an expert in the field say the opposite of what you said, and make their case. And I was feeling feelings around and feeling ignorant around it, frankly. You know a lot more about the Old Testament than I know about the New Testament. And I imagine that's true for most Jewish people. And you said, we have a lot of differences. Let's not focus on those.
That's exactly what I said.
You said, let's focus on where we come together. Because where we come together is powerful. And that's it. And that's it. You said a lot of things that I'm scratching my head about. I'm going to be real. And I hope that everybody sticks around to talk about it. Truly. You know, to talk about it with Pastor Jay, with members of the church, with you. Like, if there's something you heard or saw tonight that makes you scratch your head, don't walk out of here thinking, I disagree. Walk out of here saying, I wonder. And maybe find somebody in this room to wonder aloud with, and we learn something, and we grow in relationship. And we're going to move this relationship forward at the pace of trust and at the pace of relationship. And we're going to build a sanctuary. Oh, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary for you. It's a gospel song that comes from this week's Torah portion. Oh, Lord, prepare me, oh, Lord, prepare me to be a sanctuary, pure and holy, tried and true, and with thanksgiving, I'll be a living sanctuary. Here's the line from Torah. Ve'asuli mikdash. Ve'asuli mikdash. Ve'shachanti betocham. Ve'shachanti betocham. Ve'anachnu. Nevarech Yah.
לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשנו כגויי הארצות, ולא שמנו כמשפחות האדמה, שלא שם חלקנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל המונם. 32, and we bow, ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ועומדים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים, הקדוש ברוך הוא. We're on the bottom of 32. And your hearts will be turned. You will be changed because Ki Adonai. Because you will know that God is God. Hu Elohim. Hu v'hashebota.
As we near the end of our service and our time together, we take a moment to think of those who are no longer with us, whether you're observing the year anniversary of somebody's death or remembering somebody who died in the past week or the past month or the past year. If you're observing a yard site or in a period of mourning, I invite you to rise as you're able. Just take a moment to share the names of the people that you're thinking of.
Henry Bridgman.
Any others? We turn to Kaddish Tome, the Mourner's Kaddish on page 34. Yitzgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbam be'alma divrach hirutei ve'amlich malchutei be'chayachon uvyomechon uv'chayei zechol Beit Yisrael ba'agala uvizman kariv v'imru amen Yehei shmei Rabba mevarach le'olam umei almayam Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitraman v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudesha brichu La'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbechata v'nechamata, da'amiran be'alma v'imru amen. Yehei shlama rabba min shemaya, v'chaim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru amen. Osei shalom b'romav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael ve'al kol yoshvei tevel v'imru. May the memories be for a blessing, and may we be a blessing to their memories as well.
Amen. Amen. Well, we have arrived. We have arrived where we are. And where we are is at the end of our service, which means we're almost done. Because we want to bless wine and we want to bless bread, and we're going to sing ourselves out, and then there's more food outside. I invite everybody to stay, to continue to get to know one another. Don't just stay in your comfortable, whoever you came with, but take advantage of the opportunity tonight to talk to somebody from a part of the city that you don't live in, or that you might live in and that you might discover you live in when you talk to somebody who you don't know. And we're gonna stay and hang out. If there's appetite for, unpacking things we've heard and talking as a group, great. And if there's just appetite for food, that's okay too. Rabbi Stephen, you want to take us into Kiddush, and we'll stand. I believe it's 30.
30, page 30. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, borei peri hagafen. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, asher kiddishanu mitzvotav v'ratzavanu, v'shabbat kodsho be'ahava uvratzon hinchilanu, zikaron lema'aseh v'reishit. Ki hu yom techila lemikra kodesh, zecher litziat Mitzrayim. Ki vanu v'charta ve'otanu kiddashta im kol ha'amim. V'shabbat kodshecha be'ahava uvratzon hinchaltanu. Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh HaShabbat.
Amen. And there's more of that, and also seltzer water out there. All right, and the thing is with this holy challah is that it's beautiful and tasty, but you should not hoard the challah board. When it gets to you, you should take some and then pass it. And so we all reach in, we sort of embody all of the hands that it took to create this nourishment tonight with gratitude. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, hamotzi lechem min haaretz. Amen. Shabbat shalom.
Shabbat shalom.
Thank you. If you want to keep singing, we're on 36. Otherwise, see you out there. Shalom aleichem, malachei hasharim, malachei elyon, melech malachei hamelachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem, malachei hasharim, malachei elyon, melech malachei hamelachim, hakadosh baruch hu. Shalom aleichem, malachei hasharim, Ay, 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 ay. Good Shabbos. Good Shabbos. For those of you who want to get more involved in this relationship between Mishkan and Lawndale, reach out to your clergy person and we'll see what we can do.
Yeah.
All right.